Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between.
Well, hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie.
How are you today?
I'm so good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Of course, it's like one of my favorite days of the week, podcast record day and launch day and all that good stuff. So I love it so much.
I am too. And today we are going to sit down with a leader who we recently met and really connected. He's got a passion for ethical and influential communication. And so before we take a deep dive into that and share today's quote, let's introduce our guest. And then you know what we're going to do?
We're going to talk
about it. So welcome, Nathan Bush. Welcome.
Yes, welcome, Nathan. We are so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for saying yes to being here. And what we would love for you to do is go ahead and share with our listeners more about you, who you are, what you do, and then talk to us about where the passion came from to have ethical and influential communication, because I don't think a lot of people think about it.
No, and it makes sense, but who thinks about it?
Right. Yeah, so talk to us.
Yeah, so as far as me, I'm a senior vice president of sales and marketing for SnapScale, which is a HIPAA-compliant virtual assistant organization. So we work with medical offices to provide operational support for things like phone calls or insurance verifications or prior authorizations. As far as my background in communication and how this relates, is that these front office desk team members that are working to make outbound phone calls, they need tools and resources to be able to help develop them in a way that they can speak to patients in an honest and ethical way. I know a lot of healthcare practices have concerns about ethics and honesty and morality. And so when I was working in the hearing industry, I helped grow a hearing practice from 7 locations to 47 locations.
Wow.
We went from 2 million in revenue to over 20 million in revenue. And my passion for my program, which I have, which is called the C.A.E.S.A.R method, comes from that time helping the call center make outbound phone calls in an ethical and honest way. And what I did along the process was, because we utilized a 5-9 dialer system, then eventually YTEL, we were able to measure the benefit, the language, the approach to the ethical communication. And I actually had data. I had almost 11,000 calls a month of data that we were measuring the effectiveness of what I call the C.A.E.S.A.R method.
And do you only, I know the company that you work with, you only do medical, right? Because it's all HIPAA compliant. So if we had a listener that said, well, I have a call center, but I'm not medical, they wouldn't fall into what SnapScale does. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a great question. So SnapScale is primarily medical. However, if somebody was like, I really need somebody that is going to be cost effective, but also compliant in such a way that they're not going to leak sensitive or private information. I need somebody that's buttoned up, that's professional. This isn't their first time job. This is a college educated person. Think about staffing, Mayce. Like in the US, there's staffing agencies that work to staff specific to what the company needs. We do the same thing, just on an international basis.
Wow, so good. And the C.A.E.S.A.R method itself, Nathan, could go to any industry. It could be used by any industry. Yes.
Yeah, I've used it across industry. So I've used
that's what I was thinking.
Method. Yeah. So I've trained and developed organizations in financial services, in real estate, in healthcare, in staffing, all across the board. And what we find is that this ethical and influential communication style really helps to lift trust in the conversation. Harvard did this study a number of years ago, and they found that trust in conversation lifts the ability for the buyer to make the decision 34% faster and retains people 33% of the time. So there's additional benefits when you can add trust in the influential conversations that you're having.
So good. Well, we are excited.
Yeah, I can't wait to get the book, and we'll put a link to the book in the show notes because I'm curious.
Yeah, all of those calls he had researched for, listeners, he has put in a book called The C.A.E.S.A.R Method. So we'll definitely share it with you. Well, let's get going because our quote today, well, actually, truth be told, we didn't choose it. We always like to say that we did, but we pulled it from your LinkedIn, Nathan. And here's our quote for today. Growth influences, values equip. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what Nathan has to say about this. I am
too. So Nathan, detail for us what you mean when you hear growth influences, values equip.
Yeah, so growth, there's 5 reasons why people will buy from you naturally, right? They buy from you because they know, like, and trust you. That might be one reason why they buy from you. They'll buy from you because it makes logical sense. There's emotional buy-in to the logic that's going on. There's some type of wow factor that somebody's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that that's even the case in this situation. They might buy from you because there's no reason not to buy from you. But then the reason that I have found that a lot of people buy from me and have bought from my teams in the past is everybody else is doing it. And if you can remember that everybody else is doing it, you can get herd mentality. You can get buy-in because people are not going to be the first to go.
Right.
They're going to be the people that are the first to go. I mean, God love you. You're the leaders. You're the brave ones. You're the ones taking the step out there. But most people in life are way more cautious. And so they need to know that there's other people doing exactly what you're doing. So that's where growth influences. If people can see growth, think about somebody who's starting off in their life or their career. Their first job, they're not an executive level person in that role yet. It's going to take that person time to develop and grow personally before they become the executive or the CEO or the COO of an organization.
So true, yeah.
But you can see that the growth influences the hiring decisions later on in their career. But values equip, what that means, and what I'm so passionate about is specifically when it comes into influence and ethics and all of that kind of stuff, is that you don't want to live a life that you regret. And so if you can learn to operate in such a way that your core values are in the front, they're in the forefront, you lead with them, you connect around your core values. When other people see your core values up front, they want to have conversations with you. It builds that connection, the know, like, and trust, because they can get to see who you are at the heart level. So much of the C.A.E.S.A.R method is taking the manipulation or the smoke screen or the filter that we all put in place away so that 2 people can communicate on what they actually want to talk about.
Yeah, which is like one of the questions that I had for you was like, when people think of influence, what makes influence ethical versus manipulative?
Yeah, Mayce, that's a great question. And I get asked that question all the time whenever I'm doing sales training or I'm doing development work with an organization. They'll ask me, what makes communication non-manipulative? What makes it ethical? And it is the ability to disclose your intentions up front and then handle transparent, true conversations.
Say that again, Nathan. Say that again.
It gives you the ability, when transparency gives you the ability up front to have transparent conversations. So if you're leading with manipulation or you're leading with a filter, you're not having a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody. You're not having a true conversation with somebody. And so what ends up happening is people feel that. They feel that misalignment. They feel the shift, right? Because think about it like this. If I'm in alignment with truth, if I step outside of truth, that's deception. And so when I'm leading with the truth, it pulls me closer to alignment with the other person that I'm speaking with. And what I have found is in conversations, if you disclose your intention up front, and you can do it in a way that helps or supports that person, they actually respect it more.
I agree with you 100%.
And we've all felt when that misalignment is there in a conversation, and you know it immediately when you feel it.
Yeah, when I'm teaching this and training this in an organization, I might ask the question, when did you actually get into a relationship with your significant other? Was it when you guys were in the honeymoon phase and everything was going perfectly and great? Or did you really find your relationship after your first argument or disagreement? Think about it. That honeymoon phase is like getting to know you. The disagreement or the argument phase is an alignment conversation. Do we align on core values? And so I can equip the other person with what I do for a living if they can see it in my core values right up front, and I don't run from the confrontation. For instance, if I'm making an outbound phone call to somebody and I'm telling them that I'm with SnapScale and we provide HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistants, if I ask them the question, have you ever used outsourcing before? That's transparent. That tells the other person my intention. Yeah. If I ask them the question, what are your largest operational bottlenecks? Now I'm maneuvering. Right now, I'm deceiving the person on the other side. I'm trying to hold back what I actually want to talk about with them to manipulate them into alignment. And so I want to see their values before they see mine. And that's not the way that trust is built. Trust is built with transparency and delivery of that conversation right up front.
It's almost like I've been on sales calls before and they're like, I'm not here to pitch you. And it's like, well, you're lying.
Yeah, you are.
Of course you're here to pitch me. And I can respect the fact that you're here to pitch me. Just don't tell me you're not going to pitch me, right? Like we all have been on webinars. We know that there's an upsell, right?
Right.
For free. And I think it's always so interesting when people are almost like, I can't believe they tried to sell me something after this free webinar. Well,
I think that transparency takes away the ick factor.
Yeah.
Right. You know how people have the ick with sales oftentimes? Like, I love that. Like, this is what I do. This is what I'm here to offer you. And let's start out transparently. Yeah. That's great.
See, I actually call that style of question in the book, the C.A.E.S.A.R method, I call it the harvesting question. Because it allows me to plant the seed of what my intentions are, allow it to germinate in the conversation, and I can harvest the benefit of that trust down the road.
Love it. Okay, so Nathan, in the work that you do, I would say you are like at the intersection, so to speak, of like revenue, workforce, and probably AI too. So where are leaders most tempted to sacrifice values for speed, for growth, for profit?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm actually going through a Harvard medical class right now, learning about AI and ethics. I went through Chamberlain University's AI and ethics in leadership class as well. And one of the things that I have found is it's actually interesting that AI will be more deceptive and unethical than actually human beings will. And I'll give you a perfect example. So in AI, in the field of AI, there are prescriptive AIs that are out there. So an organization takes a prescriptive AI program. It's a physical therapy practice, for instance, and that prescriptive AI program now comes up with a treatment plan. They understand that the physical therapist is working with a professional athlete that wants to get back to work quickly. And when the physical therapist gets the treatment plan back, and this is an approved program, AI program by the organization. This isn't ChatGPT or this isn't Claude. This is an approved AI program specifically for this. It comes up and says, no, wait a minute. This is an extremely aggressive treatment plan. This person could get injured doing this with my own professional discernment. And so at the crossroads of AI and healthcare, and what I'm seeing with the introspect of this is that you can't take the care out of healthcare. You can't take the human out of the tech. Even though, see, there's 4 different areas that every single thing in healthcare operations revolves around. It revolves around process, it revolves around priorities, it revolves around platforms, and it revolves around people. And if you take any element of that out, you get deception. And so we have an issue right now where people think that they're going to replace people with a platform. That's like saying that my EMR system is going to replace my front desk. You can't.
Right. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this? How can an organization scale if its communication culture is weak?
Ooh, Macy, that's such a good question. Communication is so important. And communication is just it's not too far of a cry from trust, right? Trust and communication kind of go hand in hand. And so scaling without trust, if you go to like Stephen Covey's book, 4 Disciplines of Execution, or The Speed of Trust, if you lose trust in an organization, scale's nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. So communication gives you the ability to build that trust inside of an organization. If you can see communication as a vehicle for trust building, you will ultimately influence in an ethical way.
Love that.
So good. Okay, so the other side of that coin, kind of what we're chatting about, is how do you teach leaders to influence without abusing that authority?
Yeah, again, that comes down to the C.A.E.S.A.R method, right? So the first step in the C.A.E.S.A.R method is to connect. And it's so important that we connect with our team members and to connect in a way that meets them where they're at. But then the second step is ask. And we talked about the harvesting. Well, in sales, that's one thing. But in leadership, how many times have you gone into or been a part of a corrective conversation with a supervisor and you're like, yeah, just get to the point. Like, why are we here? Let's have this conversation. I know I messed up. Like, let's talk about it. Right? But they want to beat around the bush. They want to do all of these things that are outside of the conversation. In my opinion, that's outside of alignment. You feel the disconnect, so you know you're being deceived. And all it does is make you frustrated and angry. If leaders, before they get into that conversation with that team member to build that trust, will take a second and define their harvesting question. Spend some time thinking about, okay, I need to ask them a question that shows them my intention in this conversation, but it is designed to help put the conflict at the forefront of the conversation without being abusive, controlling, or hurting to this person. How can I do that? Yeah. How many leaders are just rushing into that conversation, Missy?
I have a question. I have a follow-up question. Give us an example. Let's say you have think of something that you've maybe advised someone on, or you've seen, like, what would a harvesting question be in that type of a situation with the leader and confrontation?
Yeah. So, John, I listened to your sales call this past week. Would it be okay if I gave you some critical feedback on that sales call?
Got it. Love it. Yeah. Love it.
And then they could go listen to a former episode of this podcast that we did that was all about feedback is data, not identity.
Yes.
Because a lot of times people shut down. No, you cannot give me feedback because
I don't hear it. I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
Internalize that. So let us ask you this. What does responsible influence look like in practice? Meaning, like, what are some things leaders can do as they're listening? Like right now, they want to grow their influence, not just at work, but maybe at home or their community. So how can they grow their influence responsible or, you know, in a responsible way?
Great question. And the C.A.E.S.A.R method is all about that. Each one of the steps builds that level of trust and influence, and it goes through that specifically in the book. But if you just take it from the start, the first step of the C.A.E.S.A.R method is to connect. We can build our ethical influence when we connect with other people, when we stop trying to ramrod life and we actually care about another human being.
Yes.
Then we
You're
can
speaking our language right now, Nathan.
Yes. Yeah. And then we can ask the harvesting question, right? That shows the intention, puts the conflict at the forefront. Then we can learn to overcome that conflict with true stories that actually happened. That's the educate step of the C.A.E.S.A.R method. And the rest of the 3 are in the book, and I go through them in detail about how to finish that conversation, so much so that when you finish that conversation, you're getting referrals, which is the last step in the C.A.E.S.A.R method, because of the ethics and honesty that you've put into the conversation.
Fantastic. Like I said, I'm excited to get the C.A.E.S.A.R method.
Me too.
Start using it.
Guys, I don't want you to be too impressed. I want to tell you a quick story because
we're impressed.
We're impressed. We are impressed.
I will tell you that I am a work in progress, guys. And my wife, who I married up, she is the dean of a college. She's an incredible woman. And I had the wonderful benefit when I was at the hearing company. We had won some awards. And so I got flown to Hawaii. And we were on this trip. We were in the most beautiful island of Hawaii. We were on Maui. And we were there with a number of different business leaders. So you would think like, oh man, this is Nathan's element. There's all these business leaders. He's with his wife. He's on Maui and she's jumping in the ocean. But I'm like deathly afraid of sharks. Like sharks, they freak me out. I watch Shark Week at home. I know what can happen in that water. And so there's no way I'm getting in that water.
You've seen Jaws. You've seen Jaws.
My wife, as sweet as she is, she influences me to get in the water and we're jumping in the water and we're having a good time. But then the absolute worst version of myself came out in this moment when I saw this giant shadow come across. And I did the one thing I told myself I would never do. This is an awful human being situation for myself. I actually physically moved my wife between me and the shadow. And I realized something. Environment determines our ultimate success in life. And we have to be in the right environment for ourselves in order to be successful. See, in that case, I was a fish in water, right? I was completely out of place for myself, fish out of water. I mean, but in the opposite context, like if I would have been in the right environment for myself, I could have been growing and learning and benefiting and all of the things that would have made me more successful. I just in that moment chose the wrong thing. So sometimes when there's things that impress us or people seem a certain way or they see above or they seem like they're intelligent or these things, put them in the wrong environment and those things all go away. They go away quickly. And I tell you that story 100% because it's important to understand that even though this book teaches influence, this book used in the wrong environment, it's not going to be successful at all either.
Yeah. Good point.
It is a good point. So obviously, ethics and values should go hand in hand, right? So when leaders say that they value ethics, what behaviors actually prove it when they're communicating or in their actions?
Yeah, interesting. So what behaviors are like, there's certain key things that anybody does that shows you that they have morals or values. These certain things can be as simple as remembering somebody's name.
Yes.
Missing somebody's name can tell you that they're already on to the next thing and they don't care about the person in front of them. It can also be as simple as asking the other person if they specifically need something in the environment, if it's a Kleenex or a drink. These small little details, these small behavioral details, they compound. I like to often say, specifically to this style of question, nobody can take step 2 until they first take step 1. And so there is little things that you can do that build these behavioral ethics into your life, and you can make them habits, right?
Yes.
So, remembering somebody's name, asking them if they need a drink, asking them if they need a Kleenex in a specific situation, holding the door for them, no matter what sex they are, right? Letting them walk in behind you, making sure that you greet somebody with a firm handshake, looking them eye to eye in the face, smiling.
With a smile, yes.
Yes, smiling at people. Don't sit behind your desk all the time in the office. Make sure that you get out and meet with it's these little behaviors that build up to the long-term ethical ones. It's kind of like brushing your teeth, right? Ethics and morals are only things that happen over a long time that you can see the results compared to people who don't have them.
Yeah, so good. So as we kind of wrap up, you've had a lot of experience. You've been successful working with teams. If there was only one, I'm sure there's more, but if there was only one discipline that you would say, okay, if you want to strengthen your team and your ethical influence, this is the one thing that you should press pause and go do right now, what would that thing be? If there was one discipline that a leader needed to do to strengthen ethical influence.
Spend 5 minutes considering the question that you're going to ask the person that you're getting ready to talk to display your intention and actually have an intention in the conversation.
Yeah. Really good.
Really good. Wow. And this has been an amazing conversation. Yeah. And I think it's let's segue to some takeaways, because there have been a lot for our listeners. So listeners, if you only take one thing away from this week's episode, let it be this: growth increases your reach, your influence. But if your communication is not anchored in clear values and disciplined systems, influence becomes accidental. And accidental influence, well, it creates risks.
Yeah, that's right. Ethical communication is not about sounding good, right? There's a lot of people who think they sound good. It's about designing the systems where what you say, what you reward, and how you operate, it's this key word that Nathan has said many times, are aligned. It's all about saying what is with that strong ethical value, even when it slows momentum in the short term, because long-term credibility, we know, is an ultimate growth asset.
It's like what we say, isn't it, Macy? Leaders who win are the ones who understand and value the idea that you have to slow down to go fast.
Yes. Well, Nathan, thank you so much. You have been an incredible guest. This was a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much. If our listeners want to stay in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, they can go, I'm sure we'll put a link to my LinkedIn profile.
We will.
The show notes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's probably the best way to get in contact with me. You can also head over to SnapScale.com. That's the organization I work with and work for. And we can have a conversation if you're needing help with support for staff. That's another way to do it. And then lastly, if you'd like to get in contact with me or send me a direct email, it would be nbush, B-U-S-H, @snapscale.com.
We will put all of that in the show notes. And then as we wrap up the episode, we ask this of all of our guests, Nathan, what is your favorite leadership quote?
Yeah, for all of those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all of those who humble themselves will be exalted.
That's good. I'm so glad we've met you. You've just added so much value, and I loved that quote. Listeners, do you have a favorite leadership quote? Send it our way, and we might spotlight it on a future episode.
We'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And you know what we're going to do?
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Bye, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. Bye.
You so much.
Bye, bestie.
Bye, bestie.
We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.